They told me that the deep catacombs were empty. They told me that the old gods had rotted into dust 1,000 years ago, leaving nothing behind but hollow stone and warnings carved into rock. They lied. My boots crunched against the gravel. The air down here didn't smell like earth. It smelled like old copper and rain. Up on the surface, my sister was dying. The winter fever had her by the throat, and the only thing that could buy her medicine was gold. Or, if the village rumors were true, something much heavier. I held my lantern higher. The light flickered, casting long, twisted shadows against the damp walls. My fingers were so cold I could barely feel the metal handle. Just find the tomb, I told myself. Find the tomb, take the crown from the statue, and get out. It was supposed to be a dead piece of history, a relic left behind by a forgotten king named Garrick. The story said that he was a monster, a dark force that ruled the underground before the sun dwellers pushed him into the dirt. But as I stepped into the central chamber, my heart stopped. It wasn't a tomb, it was a throne. The pillars rose up into the darkness like ribs of a giant beast, and there, at the very end of the hallway, sat a throne made of jagged, black iron. Resting on the seat was the crown. It wasn't gold. It was dark, heavy iron, shaped like sharp thorns woven together. It didn't look dead. It looked waiting. I walked forward. Every step felt like dragging my feet towards deep water. The silence in the room was so loud, it made my ears ring. Just a piece of metal, I whispered. My voice sounded small, fragile. I reached the throne. I held out my hand, trembling. My fingers brushed the cold iron of the crown. A spark shot through my veins. Not fire, but absolute freezing cold. The world didn't explode. It went perfectly terrifyingly still. The lantern flame in my hand died instantly, plunging the room into the pitch blackness. I gasped, dropping the lantern. It shattered onto the stone floor. There was no sound of breaking glass. There was no sound at all. Then, the shadows began to move. They didn't just shift. They pulled away from the walls like silk ribbons, pulling around the base of the throne. And from the center of the darkness, a pair of eyes opened. They weren't human. They were the color of molten silver, glowing in the dark. I tried to run, but I stumbled backwards. My boots wouldn't move. The shadows had wrapped around my ankles, holding me gently but firmly to the floor. A voice echoed through the chamber. It didn't come from the air. It came from inside my chest, deep and smooth like rocks grinding together at the bottom of a river.
A thief. A mortal thief with cold hands and a warm heart. How unusual.
The shadows lifted him up. He didn't rise like a man waking from his sleep. He rose like a storm gathering. He was tall, his shoulders were broad, wrapped in a cloak that seemed to be made of a literal night. His face was pale, his features sharp and beautiful, but carved from something far harder than flesh. He stepped toward me, the iron crown now resting perfectly upon his dark hair. He hadn't been lost. He had been waiting for someone to touch it.
You tremble, little bird. Did you think you could steal from a god and simply walk away?
I forced my chin up. My voice shook, but I didn't let myself cry. My sister is dying, I said, the words rushing out of me. Take my life if you want, but let me send the crown to the surface, please. She needs the coin. The Dark King stopped. He was only inches away from me now. I could smell the frozen rain on him. He leaned down, his silver eyes searching my face. He didn't look angry. He looked amused.
You offer your life so easily for another. Mortals are such fragile, foolish things. You come into my dark looking for gold, and you offer me your soul instead.
He raised a hand. His fingers were long, pale, and tipped with dark silver nails. I braced myself, closing my eyes, waiting for a blow, waiting for the magic to tear me apart. Instead, the back of his cold fingers gently brushed against my cheek. The touch sent a jolt of warmth straight to my heart. It didn't burn. It felt like walking into a warm room after hours in the snow.
Open your eyes, thief. Look at what you have awakened.
I opened them. He was watching me with an intensity that made it hard to breathe.
I have no use for your death, little bird. The dead make terrible company, and I have been alone in this dark for 500 years. But a living soul, a heart that beats with such fierce loyalty, that is a rare prize.
What do you want? I whispered.
A bargain. I will send my shadows to your village. They will carry a medicine that no mortal doctor can create. Your sister will wake up before the sun rises. Her fever will be gone. She will live a long, happy life.
And what's the price?
You stay here in the subterranean realm. You will sit at my side. You will be my queen in the dark. You will belong to the Iron Crown, just as I do.
My breath hitched. To never see the sun again. To live under the earth with a monster from the old stories. But then I thought of my sister, pale and breathless in her small bed. I thought of her empty eyes. If I stay, I said, my voice turning to steel, you swear she will live?
I swear it on my kingdom.
I swallowed hard. I looked at his pale hand extended toward me in the darkness. The shadows around my ankles loosened, waiting for my choice. Deal, I whispered. I placed my small warm hand into his large freezing palm. The moment our hands locked, the floor beneath us seemed to dissolve. We didn't fall, we sank. The black stone of the throne room gave way to the massive open cavern that stretched out for miles. I gasped, clutching his arm as the wind rushed past us. This wasn't a damp cave. It was a kingdom of beautiful nightmares. Below us lay a city carved entirely out of dark crystal and obsidian. Trees made of pure silver grew along the pathways, their leaves glowing with soft amethyst light. A river of black water wound through the spires, reflecting a sky that wasn't made of stars, but of thousands of glowing gems embedded in the roof of the earth. It was terrifying. It was the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen. We landed softly on the balcony, overlooking the glowing city. Garrick let go of my hand, but he didn't move away. He stood beside me, his cape swirling in the cool breeze.
Welcome to the Umbral Court, Kira. It is not your sun-drenched world, but it is honest. Here the shadows do not hide the truth.
I looked from the glittering city back to the man beside me. The iron crown seemed to pulse with a faint dark light. He was a villain. He was the villain in the stories of my people. A monster used to scare children into staying in bed. But as I looked at his face, I didn't see a monster. I saw a king who had built a palace out of his own isolation. They told me you were cruel, I muttered. Garrick turned his head, his silver eyes catching the amethyst light in the silver trees. A faint, sad smile touched his lips.
I can be cruel, little bird, to those who deserve it. But to you, you gave up the sky just to keep a promise. Why would I ever be cruel to a creature with a soul as bright as yours?
I turned back to face the glowing underground world. The air was cold, but my hand, the one that he held, still felt warm. I had come down here to save a life. But as the heavy gates of the obsidian palace closed behind us, lock by lock, a strange, dangerous thought crossed my mind. I hadn't just saved my sister. I had walked right into the arms of the dark, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of the night.
Thank you for listening to a Quiet Cabin original production.